In this lesson, we're going to create another simple Python web server, but this time we're going to write a script to do it, rather than do it from the command line. The advantage of the script is, or program, we'll be able to modify it if we want to, and make changes to make it more extensive. We're still going to do just normal web page retrieval in this example, but at least you'll have a basic program that you can modify should you choose to do so. So let's get started. We're going to call this program webserver.py. So we'll start it off. First thing we're going to do is import some libraries. Sys, because we're going to assign the port number from the command line. Base HTTP server to handle our serving. And simple HTTP server to use the simple HTTP request handler. Once we have our libraries in place, we need to create a couple of objects to make it easier to refer to them. So the first one is handler for simple HTTP request handler. Server for the base HTTP server.http server. We don't want to have to type that more than once. And then protocol to identify our protocol. Next, we're going to test to see if a port number is entered on the command line. If it is, then we're going to get it and place it in the port variable. Otherwise, our port number will be 8000, kind of by default. Next thing we have to do is tell our handler what our protocol version is, which we do right there. Then we set up our server with the server address and the handler, and we just call it HTTPD. We also have to get the socket name, although we're going to ignore that variable in the rest of this program. So actually, we'll leave it out. Let's just comment it out. A little message telling it what we're doing, so that when the user enters the program, it'll say that we're serving HTTP. And then finally, the function httpd.serveForever to set up the server in an endless loop. We can stop the server by typing Control-C when we want it to stop serving web pages. So we'll save the file, come back to the command line, run the program. Made a little mistake, right? Oh, I see what we did. We left out one line. Let's go back. We have to tell it where the server is serving from. In this case, it's an IP address, 127.0.0.1, and the port number that we specify. And of course, 127.0.0.1 indicates localhost. Okay, this time we should be ready to go. Clear the screen, run the program, and there we're serving HTTP. So let's bring up a web browser. Let's navigate over to localhost 8080. There's our page. So we have an index.html file just like we did before. It says simple web server index page. It has a link to a test page which we can click on. It brings it up. Or we could have specified that page directly by putting it in the URL, and there we go. So this simple script, less than 20 lines, 3, 6, 10, 11, 15 or 16 lines, take out the commented line, can run a web server. It doesn't do everything. We might want to include some GET handling and POST handling, but then again, the real use for this web server is not to do serious Apache type web serving. It's to set up something simple in a local network when you need some way to serve web pages. So for example, in an internal network at home or in an office, if you don't want to go to the trouble of setting up Apache for a real web server, you could run this little script with an index page as a link to all the pages that are accessible and use that. So now we've covered two different ways to serve HTTP, the command line way and then via this program. Now let's move on to another topic in web serving and talk about how Python handles CGI, or the Common Gateway Interface. And we'll see that in the next lesson.